Very grateful to be here, very grateful. This conference has been very wonderful, and we have enjoyed very much being here with Manashakti and hopefully creating a joyful birth experience for all of you. Now this morning, we started off with Dr. Verney talking to us about attachment and bonding. And then we heard about the new way that Swamiji Vivekananda has introduced here. And then Dr. Oka started moving us toward how we can implant this and how we can make it. The whole weekend we have been studying the difference between body and mind and how important it is for the pregnant parent, the father and the mother, because we must realize that the father is an extremely important part because he holds the energy for that spiritual essence that the mother needs to build upon, to build into herself for the baby. And we've studied everything from science all the way into the mind so that you can begin understanding this. Now, what I'm going to be talking about in this short amount of time here, and then we'll follow up with our education director talking to you more about other parts of trauma that might occur. But I'm going to talk to you first about how to create a joyful birth experience. When my lifetime with APPPAH goes all the way back to the beginning of APPPAH. I'm very fortunate to be able to have had experiences all the way back. And I have seen the growth that has occurred. I talked to you at the very beginning about how difficult it was for some of us at the beginning because they thought that we were really crazy. But now, as I put it, science is catching up with us. And they're beginning to understand the importance of bridging the gap. Today, what I'm going to be doing, if I can make this work, next, I can't make it go forward, yes. I want to talk just a bit about how do we awaken creativity and inner guidance that the woman and the partner have already in their being. Because as we've been studying, the universal minds that are out there has brought this to us, but we have to know how to contact it. We don't know that a lot of times. And especially because as we're seeing, it's being separated from us. And so one of the things that I love poetry. And Schiller writes a very meaningful poetry to me. And he says, "Joy, divine spark of the gods, we enter your sanctuary. Your magic reunites what custom has sternly parted." And that's what I want to just talk a bit about. You see, in today's, and I know that you're experiencing this more and more, but in today's society, we focus a lot on the physical and intellectual. And we don't focus very much on the emotional and relationship aspect. Society, in fact, most of our schooling and things focuses on things that are physical and intellectual. And for a lot of women, young women today that are growing up, they become very career-oriented. And motherhood is kind of at the back of the wheel, and sometimes doesn't even come until they're older. Hopefully, we can start averting that and bringing that back down a little bit, where they realize that intellectual learning and technical skills are all physical actions. And that's good. That's good. But we don't want it to be like, let's say you're an obstetrician and you have a new mother and you're trying to figure out how to reach her, and she's had a career, and that's all she's had is a career. And her career has involved bringing things into organization, reading a lot, studying and things. So you walk into her office as if she was one of one of the employees. And it's like that doctor walked into the office and said, you know, I have a 9-month project here, and I would really like it if you could organize things for me, study the data on this, and pull it all together, and then I'll deliver the product. And that's a lot of how women in our society today are. It sounds silly to say, but that's exactly how they're doing it. They're organizing it, and they learn a lot about, okay, I should do this exercise, I should eat this, and I should not eat that, and I should walk this much, and I should, there's another article that I haven't read yet, but they don't come to understand that the most important factor that they can have is their connection with their unborn baby. So you're going to hear me talk a little bit, very briefly, because this is not an anatomical lecture. We've already had those over the weekend. But we're going to talk a little bit about the brain, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. As you know, the brain is divided into the right and the left. Interestingly enough, and most of you all know this, the right hemisphere is quite different than the left hemisphere, but they work simultaneously. They can, they should. And the left hemisphere here, as you can see, is it's very sequential. It's problem solving and listening and talking and reciting. It's language and reading. It's very linear, and it moves from part to whole. Whereas the right hemisphere over here is very poetic and rhythmic and color sensitive, and it's very pictorial. And it interprets body language. As you heard over the weekend a bit about the 10th cranial nerve, and it's most of us are calling it now the polyvagal theory, but it's very interesting how we switch in and out of that. But it's the very thing, when you walk into a room, what is the very thing you're looking for? You're looking for a friendly face, okay? You're looking for somebody that you can connect with. But over here, you see this group, and they're fighting. And you go, I don't know, I don't want to go there. No. And you look over there, oh my, they're having a really good time. But I feel I shouldn't go there because it's not appropriate. So you're ascertaining. And that's exactly what we do as we're trying to bridge the gap. We look at things from a very pictorial way, but we're also gathering information here, okay? Now, how do we do that? There is this wonderful bridge that was again mentioned. Dr. Verney talked about it briefly. There's a wonderful bridge between the left and right hemisphere. And within that bridge, deep inside it, that bridge is called the corpus callosum. Some people call it a bridge. I call it the hallway of the mind. And when I am working with my clients, I'm teaching them a way to visualize crossing the hallway of their mind and keeping the two doors open, but at the same time, allowing themselves to leave the strong left hemisphere and move into the right hemisphere. So I'd like you all to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to think and visualize a room, any room. It can be a room from your house. And you see a door in that room. It's just an ordinary door. And I want you to picture it, see what it's like. And please take yourself over there and open that door. Find something in the room that you can prop it open with, because you want to keep that door open. And beyond that door, you look and you see a hallway. I want you to visualize what your hallway looks like. Is it narrow? Is it wide? Is it breezy? Or is it very sultry? What does it look like? Now I want you to take yourself in your mind's eye across that hallway. Visualize again. Am I leaping? Am I walking slowly? Am I crawling? Bring yourself across that hallway. Is the hallway wide or is it very narrow? Are there things cluttering it? Or is it open and wide? Whatever way it is, doesn't matter. But I want you to visualize how it is for yourself. And as you're coming across that hallway, you see another door. And this door is very different than the first door. It's actually very beautiful. Take a moment and visualize, what does that door look like in my mind? And now go forward and open that door. And again, you see something there in your hallway. Prop it open with whatever object you see. Perhaps it's a crystal. Perhaps it's a lovely box. Whatever you have in your hallway that you want to open that door and prop it open. Now, as you stand looking out to where does that door lead to, you see a very different place. I want you to visualize a safe place that you love to go to. Maybe it's in your garden. Maybe it's at the seaside. Maybe it's on a mountain hilltop. Visualize your favorite safe place. Maybe it's in front of a fireplace. And find a place in your special place where you can visualize yourself sitting down. Maybe there's a bench, maybe a rock, maybe sand, maybe a warm rug. And seat yourself to where you're feeling comfortable. And know that this special place is a place of deep relaxation, and you can come to it at any time. Now, I wish we had time that you could stay there for quite some time, but we don't. So I want you to see yourself coming back across the hallway of your mind. And remember, the doors are open. So you're coming back into this room. And when you feel ready, open your eyes, and we'll continue this lecture. That's one of the first things that you want to do with whomever you're working with that's a pregnant client and her partner. You want to help them have a way to cross the bridge or to cross the hallway of their mind so that they can begin feeling and experiencing. Dr. Oka spoke about yoga, and yoga is a very, very wonderful tool that can lead you through that. And the new way that we learned about and have been learning about, or your own spiritual path, is another way to that newness that we're all looking for. Let's realize here that in the corpus callosum, in the deep part, there's some very special places deep in your brain, and that's deep in the base, I guess you'd say, or the connection of the corpus callosum. So crossing the hallway of your mind is a wonderful way to begin touching some of those places. Now, inadvertently, throughout our life, we touch these places all the time. And they involve the thalamus, the hypothalamic system is what we're looking at. And the thing that I want to talk about is the importance of the parts associated with the hypothalamus, the thalamus, basal ganglia, and other deep nuclei, starts us into having what is called state-dependent memory and learning. Now, what the heck does that mean, state-dependent memory or learning? That means that any emotional state that you are in at the time that an experience is happening gets linked and is linked in your brain. So let's do another little fun thing. Imagine back to your first boyfriend or your husband and the music that was playing at a time when you were having a wonderful emotional experience. If you think about or hear that music at any other time in your life, what happens in your mind? Immediately you're back to, oh, that's our song. Immediately you're falling right back into, because it's linked in your body. It's linked in your mind. And so one of the things that's important to realize is that this place of state-dependent memory and learning is also equated to our emotional feelings, feelings of fear and anger and pleasure and sorrow. And that part interprets experiences as pleasurable or painful. Okay, so from that, let's take a look at this. Now, this is how the brain interprets pain or pleasure. We have incoming body messages that come in through, and I call them our peripheral influences that we all experience, because we are experiencing through our sight, our hearing, our touch, our taste, our smells, even the temperature. Pardon me. Oh, that scared me. Okay, I thought it was 10 minutes already. And then I looked down and she doesn't have the right kind of sari on, you know. But anyway, they're incoming body messages, all right? And when those incoming body messages happen, it also is causing central influences to fire off the state-dependent memory and connections that are there. And that's our memories, our culture, our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, our values. And what we need to do is we're trying to balance those with knowledge, attention, evaluation, and looking at our moods. Now, all of us have ways of doing this, but as a midwife and as a teacher and counselor, what I use is journaling, because I find that journaling is a very useful way, but I'm very insistent that the journal be kept private, and should only be shared with the person, especially their partner, that they want to have close consistency with. Because the kind of journaling that I want them to do is looking at their feelings, looking at their thoughts and their beliefs and their feelings and their values, finding out, as Dr. Sobti said this weekend, finding out who they are. Because you cannot give what you have not received. So you must receive it first, all right? Okay, so those are called anchors. And we've heard about anchoring, meaning that the experience have no meaning for most of us until they're defined by a word or a label, okay? And words or labels will elicit an emotional response based on the picture that's already stored in your mind of a past event that emits a feeling when that word or label reminds you of it, just like I talked a few moments ago. If you have an experience and it's linked with feelings, then all your life it will be that way. Now, what we're doing as practitioners is trying to help, we are working to help the expectant parents, both the man and the woman, to come to a point where they understand their own feelings and can welcome this child coming into their space, all right? So there's various ways that we work doing that. But one of them, like I said, is what I use is the Joyful Birth Journal. And I have them, it's an actual journal that they work with and has exercises in and blank pages for them to do the exercises on. However, you can create your own. It's just what I use, okay? But what I'm saying is, it's very important that they focus on becoming relaxed physically and connected with one another and with the universal energy and prepared. Because a lot of time, what happens is we stay out here on the left side of the mind. We're so caught up in the world that we don't stop and go within. And this is a way that you can go within. Now, what I'm going to do in the rest of this lecture is just show you what I do, because you can do the same thing, but in your own way. And many of you are doing it in your own way, because I've loved sharing with many of you this weekend. The best anchor for birth and parenting is to bond with your baby, with the conscious baby in the womb. Now, one of the things that I do is, as I led you in that first exercise, I teach them how to cross the hallway of their mind into their special place. But then, during the time of imagery, I do various exercises with them. And one of them is what I call the birth cave imagery. The birth cave is the uterus. The uterus is the most magical and sacred place in the human body. And unfortunately, I'm going to be honest. It is not the stomach. It is the holy womb, the holy mother womb, okay? And so always help them, the woman and the partner, realize how sacred that birth cave is. But you know what? If you were hiking in the mountains and you came across a cave, you might not want to go in that cave. You know, you might feel really scared. And how many of our women and their partners are terrified about going into the birth cave? And so I do some imagery with them. Imagery is your greatest tool to lead them into the birth cave. And when they go in the birth cave, I want them to figure out, and it's part of the birth planning, I want them to figure out, okay, if I'm on this journey, because I take them on a journey once they're in that special place, and I help them see a cave, visualize a cave, and they go to explore the cave, and I say, what do you need to go into that cave? Now, some women, oh man, they start figuring out, I need to be linked with somebody. A good strong rope tying me to somebody would be really important. I need my partner there, for sure. I may need a light, you know, and they start visualizing what is it they need. And it's good that they do that, because, and sometimes it's not immediate that they're able to go into the cave, but I want them first to find out, because that's the first step of exploration of self. What do I need? What is important to me? Who am I? Because they cannot meet their unborn and bond with their unborn baby till they know themselves. I've said that before, and I'll say it again and again. It's really important. The father's the same way. The father needs to have an opportunity to bond with the baby as well. And it's one of the most delightful things, and I'm sure many of you have experienced it, but it's so delightful to have the bond, to see the bond occurring. And many people are very upset with ultrasounds, but in actuality, I kind of like ultrasounds. I don't like them constant, but I have seen so many times the father, for the first time, realizing that this is his baby. And so I do like the 20-week ultrasound, for instance. I'm not a big proponent of other ultrasounds because I think I'd rather use visualization. So the best anchor, like I said, for birth and parenting is to bond with that baby in the womb. So I'm going to show you a few ways that we do that. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, and as a recent article, is how the baby oftentimes is singing in the womb with the music that you're playing. Depends on the music, because I'm sure sometimes if it's the wrong kind of music, they're screaming. But as you can see, this baby is singing, because this is a study that came out of Barcelona, Spain, And at 16 weeks old, the unborn baby appears to be singing with the music. And it was Vivaldi that in this experiment that they were doing, they played through headphones on the abdomen and also vaginally via a special instrument that they had created. But isn't it interesting that the baby is responding to the music? There's my 10-minute girl. Okay. From Brazil, when I was writing my first book, I was so intrigued with what she does with her people, and I asked if I could adapt some of her work into my journal, because what I have women do is I have them experience these wonderful things called womb service, delicious delicacies for your baby. And as you can tell, this is one that I love doing with having women do, because on a day where there are clouds in the sky, pause and gaze upward. Take delight in the sight. Allow your mind to play with the shapes of the clouds, their light and movement. Create stories about them and tell those thoughts and stories to your unborn baby. I want them to journal with their feelings. Now, going back to the birth cave imagery that I use in my work, once they have comfort about going into the birth cave, I have them go into the birth cave and first get to know the cave. And that came for me from way back. Ursula K. Le Guin had written a trilogy of the, I can't even remember the name of it now, but it had to do with, it was the tombs of, that's the name, Tombs of Atuan. And it had to do with this special magical tomb that they were going through and going into this beautiful cave. And it just reminded me of, oh, I want women to see their birth cave as a beautiful place, because a lot of women to start with don't feel that way. And so I have them first go into the cave and find that special place and find themselves seated there and getting to know the cave. What do the walls look like? What is the coloring look like? And eventually, I have them even come to the point where they're working directly with their baby. They're meeting their baby and visualizing. And because all women and their partners, but especially the women, they visualize throughout their whole pregnancy. And so the birth cave imagery for me is really important. But one of the things that I have them do then is to journal about those feelings. And so when they're doing things like this out in the sunshine, then they take time to come back and journal about it, so that they're bonding with their baby. The other one that I use a lot is for the partners to caress the belly, and as they breathe deeply and peacefully, I let their hands send messages of love to the unborn baby. This is one of the places that I really work on yoga with them. And I have, I'm sure that many of you know this pose, but I have the mother sitting in between the knees of the father, and his hands are on her womb, and her hands are on his, and they're thinking about their baby. And then as they're breathing, I have them rock and hug the baby breath. And this was something that I learned through APPPAH, and I used it a lot in my work, where they're in that position sitting, and he rocks back and she breathes in and her belly expands. And then as he comes forward, he gently pulls against her abdomen, so that, and it's called rock and hug the baby breath, because they are rocking the baby and hugging the baby through the breathing. It's a very beautiful exercise that they do. So then with the three of them gathered together, I have them have a conversation about this new little family. Talk about who you are and about your home, your life, your ideas, hopes, dreams, because you're bonding with the baby. And as I said, that's the and as we've learned over this entire weekend, that's the most important way that we can help them prepare spiritually to bring this spiritual essence into physical form. The baby is growing, physically growing in the womb, but has not chosen yet to come to birth, to come onto this planet. And the parents are bringing and imprinting on that baby's brain development and psychological development the feelings that they're hoping that child will carry. So another is the prenatal bonding of reading to the baby. This is a very fun one that they can give their child, and sharing the reading of the baby. The last thing that I do with them, but I'm doing this throughout, is sometimes when they're in the womb, there's boulders there, or it looks messy to them, or it doesn't feel comfortable to them. And I have them journal about these things. And what I did in my studies, I studied art and a form of art therapy, and Dr. Lucia Capacchione was my mentor. And she taught us to work with the non-dominant hand. For most people, that's their left hand. Their dominant hand is the one they write with. But it doesn't matter whether it's your right or left hand, but always use the non-dominant hand in this journaling. So I'm going to show you, in conclusion, just a few of the exercises that I do with couples. We do a lot of different kind of art journaling. We have the whole belly casting and the drawing and different things that we do to get the bonding with the unborn baby. Because that helps in the whole parenting aspect. You see, as you've learned this weekend, parenting does not begin at birth. It begins prenatally, even before birth. Before conception. So here are some. This is an inner child chat dialogue with the unborn baby that a mother's doing. She writes with her dominant hand questions that she wants to ask, and then she sits and thinks and feels, and whatever comes up, she writes it with her non-dominant hand. So she's asking, "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" And the baby says, but I can't read it. Good. I don't know what it says. What does it say? Okay, I like to sleep a lot, yes. And are you comfortable? And she says, yes. The baby says, yes, except whenever you bend over or sit on an awkward chair. Many times it's hard to understand what they've written because it's with their non-dominant hand. But you see, that's what's wonderful about non-dominant hand journaling, is it bypasses the defense mechanisms and immediately goes into their own childlike feelings. Because you just can't. So with non-dominant hand journaling, I always tell them, doodle, scribble, write, prose, poetry, whatever you want. And so many times they're not writing. Sometimes they're just drawing. Here's one about affirmations. When I run into a problem that somebody has and they have a block and they just don't feel comfortable, I have them create an affirmation. And you all probably know about affirmations. But I don't know if you've experienced this, but most affirmations won't go through if you've got some real definite negative feelings. So I have them do non-dominant journaling with the affirmation until it comes to a place where they are calm about it, and they can come clear, and that affirmation can then go in. So I have them start with, here's one: I feel good now. No, I don't. I'm fat. I feel good now. Something doesn't feel right every day. I feel good now. I always have them play back and forth. And I feel good now. And she's starting to feel different. She says, well, I guess it's good. I'm pregnant. I feel good now. It does feel good to be cared for. I feel good now. It's good to be pregnant. We waited so long. And then I always have them finish with again the affirmation. Now it'll start going in. Now, interestingly enough, if the block is big, sometimes it can take days or weeks of their journaling over and over again with that one statement to have it go through. Here's another one that a father did. I'm confident about labor. Look at his answer and how big it is. No, I'm not. I'm confident about labor. Well, I'm insecure about showing my sensitivity. I'm confident about labor. Well, everything will be just fine. I'm confident about labor. Now, like I said, sometimes it isn't that quick, but I chose quick ones for this example for you. Here's another where I have them do body chat. And with body chat, they draw with their non-dominant hand the body. And then they sit and meditate and feel. How does it feel? And she's happy, and she loves her baby, but my shoulders and back hurt sometimes. My legs swell and feel funny. And then, I did not bring this to show you too, but then what I have them do is I have them journal with, if they have a negative feeling, I have them journal with that and do a body chat of, what are you trying to tell me about the shoulders? Who are you, shoulders? And what are you trying to tell me? And what would you like me to do? What is the feeling? Now, I had a woman, I'll give you an example. I had a woman one time whose legs hurt her terribly, just terribly. And she'd gone to her doctor and tried to do everything exercise-wise and everything, but her legs still hurt a lot. And so I had her do the non-dominant hand journaling with those legs. And what came up with when asked about who are you, it came up in her non-dominant journaling, I am the person in you who's not standing up for herself. And it was so interesting because she learned so much about herself with that particular statement. So I do body chats with people. This woman, I could not believe. I told her afterwards, are you an artist? Because this is with her non-dominant hand. She drew this image of herself, and I'm going, you have to be pretty good to do that. But she did. And she felt really good about everything feels relaxed and in its place and where it belongs, and I'm uninhibited and purposeful, dynamic and powerful, and non-sexual, functional. This was after, of course, weeks of work, months probably of work. Uh-oh. Now this is the 5-minute reminder. No, time is over. Okay, that's worse. Okay, this really quickly is, I have to go over a little bit. I'm almost done. Cluster writing is a very fun exercise in which they take a word and around that word, and this is all done with the non-dominant hand, they write, what are some words that mean that to me? So on pregnant body, she wrote, happy, heavy, big, healthy, love, and then you have them go off of each one of those words, and then you have them, with their dominant hand, I have them write a prose poetry about what, and use the words from what they had. So she wrote, pregnant body, big and glowing like the moon, centered, healthy, proud, goddess-like, strong woman, yet scared, and love. And then with the decision, I asked them to make a decision about what do you have to do from what you just found out. And she said, I need to keep journaling to get at the root of my fear, and I need to keep nurturing myself. So cluster writing is a fun one to do. Here she's journaling, a woman is journaling with the birth energy of when she starts having some mild contractions just before birth. Sometimes if she still has fear, I have her journal with those. And so she's journaling here with the birth energy, and how does that feel for her? So the thing that I want you to take away from this whole conference, but especially from now, is that the number one principle that we have in our program is babies are conscious and aware in utero. They are listening and participating in your life through their senses, and they want to connect with you and be loved by you from the very start. And with the birth cave imagery, I go on to have the woman and her partner actually focusing on the baby and getting to know the baby. And this is over a whole, usually about 6 months that I have them in my practice. So thank you very much, and I hope that your takeaway is wonderful.
Hello. Madam, I must thank you on behalf of everybody that we had a very pleasant journey at fully effaced mindset for full-term normal delivery. We enjoyed it. So nice of you. May I request our dynamic, enthusiastic team leader, Sri Gajanan Kelkar sir, to present a memento to Madam.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Hello.